Know and love. I know and love you. I am Dr. Andy Toliver-Smith. I am an associate professor at Howard University, and you all are familiar with my journey, my trajectory from PWI finally back to the Mecca, to an HBCU. I teach everything. But my area of expertise is cultural and linguistic diversity, along with audiology. So I'm probably most known for my work in Black ASL. Dr. Chenell Loudermill is my colleague and my classmate from my doc program at the University of Arkansas in Medical Sciences. Dr. Loudermill, go ahead.
Hello, I am Chenell Loudermill. I'm a clinical professor at Purdue University, and my area of expertise is school age language and literacy. And so I do a lot of I provide clinical education and training for the students in our program, and that is mostly around testing for dyslexia and providing those interventions. And I'm happy to be here.
You know, Andy, I love you too.
Oh, all right.
Okay. So you go ahead with your presentation, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Let me get started. Let me tell you all a little bit about um, where this topic came from. So sometimes it does come from your own. Recently, well, I guess in the past year or so, both myself and Chanel, we wrote a book chapter for a particular book, and it was about Black women in higher ed and things like that, right? And when we had to peer review each other, reading chapters, I said to myself, I saw a theme here. Okay. And all this time, we always like to say that it's the white women doing this to us because, we're only 3% of the field. Okay. So, yeah, it is the white women doing it to us, but a lot of times it's us doing it to us. Okay. So that's when I determined, I said, you know what, sometimes this comes from your own. And so I spoke with Dr. Loudermill. I'm like, girl, we got to talk about this. We got to tell this story. And so this is how this presentation came about because we had to tell the story. So the question is, why do sisters hurt other sisters? This presentation is going to explore the complexities of Black women in CSD. We will examine internal oppression and its impact. So from that point, we have to discover how to stand in solidarity. These are my financial and non-financial disclosures. As you all know, uh, I'm not a clinical professor. I'm sorry. This is a typo. I stole this from your slide, Dr. Loudermill. I'm an associate professor at Howard University. I'm a member of MBASLA. I'm also a board member of the Arkansas affiliate of the National Black Association of Speech, Language, and Hearing. I am an ASHA member, SIG 14, and I'm also a member of CAPSID. Dr. Loudermill?
Yes, so I am a salaried clinical professor at Purdue University and a member of MBASLA, also a member of a couple of SIGs from ASHA and a member of ASHA, and then a member of the Council for Academic Programs and CSD, which is CAPSID.
All righty. So our learning outcomes today are to identify and define internalized oppression. Also to describe the impact of gatekeeping and hazing in the field of communication sciences and disorders. Finally, to connect with other Black women regarding their experiences in the workplace. Uh, Group membership determines the degree to which an individual has power or the opportunity to access resources. Oppressors are those who are the dominant in power in the society or in the group, okay? Use their access to power and privilege to impose their worldviews on the oppressed and justify and enforce the social, political, and systematic denial of resources to the oppressed, okay? And some of these groups can be race, sex, gender, sexual orientation, abilities, things like that. Okay. And so oppression is going to occur when one group has more access to power and more privilege than another group. And when that power uh, um, and privilege is used to maintain the status quo, all of us are very familiar with what that looks like. Okay. This is something that we're used to. We deal with it on a regular basis. And then oppression is also going to lead to the differentiation of people into groups, pardon me. So it'll result in superior, inferior, dominant, dominated, power, and powerless. Okay, these are things that we are very familiar with. And of course, this is done in many different ways, and it comes in various forms. And we know that it's woven into the cloth of our country. Okay. So it occurs at the institutional, systematic level, through the laws, the policies, physical environments, and social norms. Okay. So this usually starts at a very young age. Okay. So this experience of oppression over lifetimes, over generations, can lead to individuals. It can lead them to internalize the message of inferiority regarding their group membership. Okay. So over time, this can become unconscious and involuntary because some of us don't even realize it anymore. Okay. It's not only a result of oppression and exploitation, it also perpetuates oppression. And I'm always saying this. This is something I'm always saying, oh, they're just perpetuating Whitey's agenda. Okay, I say that all the time. If you talk to me too long, I'm going to say it to you eventually. How many times have I said that to you, Chenell?
A lot, ma'am.
Hundreds, yeah, hundreds, thousands. So, so of course, like I said, internalized oppression is a component of oppression, whereby oppressors maintain domination over the oppressed. Okay, so this is seen or manifests in misogynoir. How many of you have heard of misogynoir? Yes, no, maybe. Okay. Miso, hatred of, Gen, women, and Noor, Black women. So misogynoir is the unique form of sexism that Black women faced. It's fueled by anti-Blackness and misogyny. This is, if we ever talk about intersectionality, this is where sexism and racism intersect, and it's unique to us. Okay. It manifests in stereotypes and discrimination, which limits our opportunities and advancements. Within the field of CSD, it can lead to exclusion and marginalization, which undermines our professional growth. So let's talk a little bit, or let's talk about the person. Let's let her tell you what about misogynoir. This is Dr. Moya Bailey, and she coined the term misogynoir. So here she is.
Misogynoir, the hatred of, aversion to, or prejudice against Black women. In 2008, while I was writing my dissertation, I coined the term misogynoir, and it was a term that I was really trying to find because I wanted to talk about something I was seeing in these dated medical school yearbooks in terms of how Black women were represented. And unfortunately, that representation matched things that I was seeing in a lot of the different media innovations of the last several centuries. And so what was it about this representation of Black women that had remained unchanged for nearly 100 years? I think it's really important to name the way that Black women are mistreated in society, because when you are able to describe exactly what people are experiencing, it makes it that much easier to address it. And giving the experience of misogynoir a name really gives us a place to build from. And I've seen so many people find the language helpful in their own activism. The idea of something that I created being added to the dictionary is still something I can't fully put my mind around, especially since it's not a particularly pleasant word. I'm really actually looking forward to the day when the word gets retired.
Okay, there we are. So again, this was coined by this woman to describe this distinct form of anti-Black sexism. Now, I want to talk about just a minute, take a little departure, and talk about Black feminism, okay? Because this is what leads to that. But I want to be clear about Black feminism. It's not to be confused with regular feminism, because that's something that white women do. I honestly prefer the term womanism, which was coined by Alice Walker. But whatever, and Chenell and I talked about this, but whatever term we use to combat this issue, we need to put Black in front of it, because we need to be clear about what it is. Okay. So again, this occurs when a member of the same cultural group takes it upon themselves to carry out the dominant culture's wishes. This is a perpetuation of the Willie Lynch letters. Who's familiar with Willie Lynch? Nobody? You? Okay, Daria, good. Somebody's familiar with Willie Lynch. Black women are often exposed to verbal abuse and hazing by other Black women in the workplace, which leads to trauma, health concerns, and negative psychological effects. It also leads to competition rather than collaboration, and we need to be doing more of that. Now, this video is a little too long, so we can go back to this if we need to, and it's a discussion about misogynoir, but it's a little too long, so in the interest of time, I'm going to skip it and we'll come back to it, okay, if we need to. If not, it's in the presentation and you can absolutely look at it. Okay. This young woman has a discussion of misogynoir that you might find interesting. We certainly did. So we'll share this with you.
Hey y'all, what's up? It's Friday, so I'm gonna keep it Black, but I'm gonna keep it brief. Ooh, they not gonna like this one. Hey, tell it like it is. So I just want to talk to y'all today about this thing called misogynoir. Tell it. This is for Black men to hear, for Black women to feel heard, and for white people to pay attention to in their endeavors toward anti-racism so they can better understand intersectionality. We're listening. See, misogynoir is a specific type of sexism Black women experience, or what Moya Bailey refers to as the specific hatred, dislike, distrust, and prejudice directed toward Black women. Now, we can talk about this subject any day of the year, but it hits different during Black History Month, okay? Hello, somebody. You see, earlier this week, I posted a reel about Joanne Robinson, the woman who was the actual brains and bronze behind the Montgomery bus boycott, not Dr. King, like most of us believed or inferred from our civil rights movement lessons in grade school. And while I was just redirecting credit to give credit where it was due, somehow Black men still found a way to respond negatively, saying I was disrespecting Dr. King's legacy, or that the women involved were irrelevant because obviously Dr. King was needed to pull it off. Now, the civil rights movement was male-dominated in terms of representation, large in part due to respectability politics. What many conveniently forget is that respectability politics are inherently sexist and thus left many women on the back burner or in the shadows of the movement, like Mary Louise Smith. Who? Oh, just one of the many women who got arrested for refusing to give up their seat on the Montgomery bus before Rosa Parks and Claudette Colvin. Yeah, my girl Ella Baker just said, don't even worry about me. But y'all wasn't gonna do that anyway. And y'all wasn't gonna do that anyway because that's just how y'all are. Misogynoir has not only resulted in Black women not getting credit, misogynoir has also let a lot of Black men get away with doing a lot of things to Black women. Make it plain. And my thing is, if y'all are upset about us taking some of these wrongfully bestowed flowers and giving them to the women that deserve them, ooh, they not gonna like it. Girl, just say it. They're gonna be mad at me for this one. Well, that's too damn bad. Then y'all gonna be real sad to find out the truth about how some of y'all's faves treated Black women back in the day. Tell the truth, shame the devil. For example, Reverend James Bevel. Bevel was a minister that helped to spearhead the Birmingham Children's Crusade, a surprisingly little-known movement in Black history, where thousands of Black children in Montgomery, Alabama, marched in the streets for integrations when their parents couldn't and went to jail. 5,000 arrests were made. So while Bevel played a crucial role in orchestrating the movement, Bevel was also convicted of incest and raping his own Black daughters. Eldridge Cleaver, famed leader of the Black Panther Party, but also admitted in his book Soul on Ice that when he was younger, he had aims to rape white women as some sort of retribution, and so he practiced raping young Black girls because he knew nobody would care about them. We're gonna need some more. Tea is hot, but the facts are facts. And be clear, none of this takes away from what they did for these movements. But if you walk like a duck and quack like a duck, then guess what? Aflac not paying me. But I'm sure a lot of black men will prefer us not to talk about these things, especially during a month like this. Making statements like, some things we shouldn't talk about. Some of these things were necessary for us to get to the place that we are today. Oh, you mean like when the white folks didn't want us to talk about slavery because it was necessary for America to become what it is today? But what a lot of black men either forgot, and honestly it's men and women who've internalized misogynoir, but what a lot of y'all either forget, fail to realize, or just ignore really, is that we aren't just black, we're women too. And that is the reality of our black history. And black women all over the globe have kind of come to this point where we're kind of tired of sweeping things under the rug. We've come to this point of undoing the things that once did us under. Okay, calling it out so that it won't happen again. So things can be better for the young black girls of tomorrow. And also so we don't further internalize misogynoir and project it on the Chloe Baileys of the world who are just minding their young, fine black woman ass business. But that might be a whole nother conversation.
All right. So I think she made it pretty plain.
Hey y'all, what's up? It's Friday, so
Okay. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Willie Lynch effect, a lot of times this supposedly was written during slavery, okay? And the one white man who founded Lynchburg, Virginia, got up and he made a speech and talked about what white people should be doing to their slaves, right? So some people said it wasn't true. They said it was a hoax. Even if it wasn't, whether it was or wasn't a hoax, it was certainly the spirit of the time, okay? So it resulted in intergroup fragmentation, which prevents group members from connecting with one another and causes intergroup conflict, both between and within groups. So then after that, oppressed group members, they begin to discriminate against each other and choose to emulate and identify with their oppressors. So that's the whole light skin, dark skin thing, old versus young, and the house slave versus the field slave, all this kind of stuff, right? So within the marginalized groups, fellow group members are recognized as inferior, and misdirected anger towards other group members may manifest in violence. So then we start killing each other, right? Okay. So incorporation of negative stereotypes into cultural values and traditions. So we have Mammy, we have Sambo, we have all those different things, those stereotypes, right? And so that is the cultural conditioning that occurs, which pit black women against each other, old versus young, light versus dark, and etc. So once racial oppression is accepted and internalized, the need to enforce the system of oppression by the white majority is eliminated because they have us to do it to each other. Okay, we do their dirty work because the oppressed group will impose the impression upon themselves. In Black culture, this is a cumulative experience which spans across generations. Okay, and we've seen it clearly in the clinical experience. I probably don't know one Black clinician or Black SLP or audiologist that didn't have problems with a clinical supervisor who was also Black. So that's part of the thing. All righty, Dr. Loudermill.
Okay, so when we think about Black women entering the profession, there are many barriers that we face. And first of all, the historical context, and we're going to break all three of these down, but just a little bit. The historical context, when you think about the historical context of higher education in general, that college was, higher ed was created for white men anyway. And so then by the time we get the opportunity to get into higher education, then even the field of CSD, we know it has a history of exclusion and limited access for Black women. And we have gatekeeping practices, and these practices perpetuate inequalities and they create barriers. And then we also face the microaggressions and throughout the profession. And so we're going to look at each one of these. We'll go to the next slide, Andy. So when we look at the demographics and the history of CSD in general, ASHA's demographic history has looked pretty much the same for years since its inception. And so as a field, we really struggle to create diversity and expand the field. No matter how much we talk about, we got to increase diversity. That's pretty much all we've been doing for the most part. We we talk loud, long, and hard about increasing diversity in the field, but um, we have trouble moving beyond that. And now our field is no longer considered professional by the current administration, and we understand that it's just it is a classification regarding how much money you can get or student loans, but that alone increases barriers. And also just the perception. We know that we're professionals, but when an entity or an administration is not calling us professional anymore, it gives the perception to those that are less educated, and sometimes those of us that are gives us that perception that we aren't professional. And so when we look at this, you can see ASHA is 95, almost 96% female. Um, which also says a lot. It's like we the ones who doing this to ourselves, right? Females and then Black females. And then when we think about how many of us are Black or African American, I think they were bragging because, oh, we up to 4% now. Yeah, whatever. So
But no, but since we're not professional, can we get them to pay our ASHA dues? Can we let that can we
yeah.
let that go? Can we get them licenses? I know New York is expensive. Can we get them licenses not paid for in DC, Maryland, Arkansas, Missouri? Can we get
Right. So you can go to the next slide, Andy. So when we got a couple of this, at least this study looked at the experience of Black students. And so um this indicated that students from diverse backgrounds experience higher incidence of microaggressive behavior and symbolic violence by peers, faculty, and clients. Um, Again, like the gatekeeping, giving white students more competitive clinical placements, or them receiving poor grades. And then some of the microaggressions, students face the microaggressions while they are going through the program, which it has damaging psychological effects. So we think about hazing. Students are being told that they don't belong in the field. They're asked to change their speech or dialect. Um, Feeling othered, being othered, isolation. Programs like to brag about how, oh, we got one, and then they want to report the percentage too, so it'll make it look like it's more. But I would say it's more damaging to be the only one, for your program to just have one, than to, not have one at all.
I
And
agree. This is what led towards me developing that BIPOC check-in group for my students, that feeling of otherness.
yeah, and we thought that these, like Andy said earlier, we felt like these things are coming from other people, our non-Black counterparts, but they really do come from us sometimes. Um, so we get to these, we start thinking that, oh, this is what I had to go through, so you're gonna have to go through it too. And we need to check that. So we're gonna look at some of these. We'll look at some statistics, look at the rite of passage, and then that going back to like the only one. So I think we can go to the next slide here to Andy. Okay, so when we look at this profile here, so we see that ASHA has reported a total members of 4,392 that actually hold a doctorate degree. And of these members, only 15% are non-white. And so you see here, even in our place of employment, at the college and university level, you've just got 2% that are at that level. And so you think about when students are in the graduate program, and you've only got 2% of university professors, and then a 0.4 of researchers, and then that they're looking for you in those programs, and then they get to you, and then you treat them bad. Like, what is that saying about, like, what do you think that's doing to shaping their future and their experiences in the field? So when we look at the rite of passage, this goes back to what we were talking about gatekeeping, right? The some of that hazing and then baptism by fire. So we throw them in there and we tell them, "Oh, you better do it because I had to do it." And then also realizing that this occurs even after they get through graduate school. So while they're in grad school, they may have lower course ratings than their white counterparts. Pressure to serve on race-related committees, like once you get into the profession, and then doing all the heavy emotional lifting with students. So that's some of the things that the um, like faculty might go through. So even after you get through graduate school, you've been hazed, you done, been through the baptism by fire, then you get out. If you make it you end up in higher ed, or in any institution or in any organization, if they've got committees and things, you end up doing all the heavy lifting. Um, let's see.
I do plenty of it. I can't tell you all the countless number of students I have just dragged across the stage to graduate, but I always end up with the difficult students because of that.
And Andy mentioned earlier, like when we did realize, okay, this is really a real thing, like reading the chapters in the book that we contributed to, sharing the legacy and narrative leadership experiences of Black women in education. And so we were hearing all these other women talk about their experiences, and yes, it was bad coming from non-Black people, but also what were we experiencing coming from, Black people? We think we run to them and we think this is a safe space, only to find out that it's not so much. And then also thinking about how Black faculty make up about 6.5% of tenure track faculty. And then as the ranks go up, Black women go down. And then it's just, and everyone tries, and most people try to make it harder for Black women in those spaces. Um, let's see. Yeah, and Black women make up slightly more. Go back. I think I wanted to make a point about that. More than 2% of tenure professors and less than 2% of full professors. So, yeah, the higher up that, I mean, I really don't want to say higher up the ladder because it's just different positions. But, I guess the higher up in administration you get, you see
Rank,
fewer
yeah,
Black.
the higher your rank. Mhm.
Yeah, and then you start to think about not only the struggle that they have from other people, and who keeps coming to mind was the president of Harvard, how they, did her, and then the other Antoinette, Dr. Antoinette,
The one
pushing
that
her to
is that the
breaking,
one that killed herself, committed suicide?
yeah, pushing her to her breaking point. So, thinking about the sisters in these spaces and how it is really important for us to have support from one another instead of tearing each other down. You can go to the next slide, Andy.
Okay.
See where. And then also kind of going back to the only one, this has consistently been a barrier to the progression of the Black community. So while yes, some of us are the only one in our programs, and then when we get to these different positions, and then we get a whole nother level of I made it. And then I'm the only one and I'm gonna be the only one. Um, and we strive to stay in those positions, and like Andy talked about earlier, we start doing the work for them. And then they're like, "Oh, it's coming out of her mouth, so it must be okay. It's the Black woman saying it, so it must be okay." And the Black woman saying it, not realizing that you're really doing the work for them. And so I know I have experienced this myself way too often, and more recently, having other Black women to want to be the cause or perpetuate the thoughts and ideas that we're not supposed to be where we are, or we deserve a harsher punishment than someone else, or give them as many chances as it takes for them to get it right. But us, we held to a higher standard because we're supposed to be the strong Black woman. So I'm like, miss me with all that. So you can go to the next slide. And okay, so this is an example of just what I was talking about. So let's listen to this sister tell her story.
Live in Maryland, you're definitely going to want to hear this. If you've been injured in a car accident and it's someone else's fault, you could be owed significant.
This sister.
Okay, let me get to where she's supposed to be. We tried to put it where it was supposed to start, but it didn't click for me. Okay.
Today, it just really made me think, because recently I was faced with another position where, as a corporate trainer, was negotiating with the city out in Texas to come in and do some training for their employees. And I was, negotiating with a Black woman. She was a person that in HR. And so she did not make this very easy. Now, mind you, she brought me in, but once she brought me in, it suddenly became like she had to prove this point of, I'm bringing her in, but I'm going to show you why Black women really aren't equipped to do this. And so it was all these demands that she had. And I was just like, I don't really think that's what you all need, but okay, then it became the pricing. And so they're asking for the moon and the stars. Well, hey, when you're asking for the moon and the stars, that costs. And then, the icing on the cake was when I received the comments from the legal department on the contract that I sent in, and the comments were biased. There were a lot of biased comments, not just one or two. And when I pointed this out to her, her comment to me was, that's not bias. You misunderstood what they were saying, and that's unfortunate. And I was just like, you know what, Dr. Carey, we don't need this contract, because if we're having to go all this back and forth over stuff that I have not had to go back and forth with other organizations about, this is what it's going to be like once I get there, me trying to get paid. It was just an ongoing situation with her. The other ice on the cake with that particular situation was when she wanted me to do an hour-and-a-half training for free for the leaders of the city, so they could test me out and see if I really knew what I was doing. Girl, got a whole PhD. No. And so it's things like that that make me sit down and say, as Black women, why do we do this to each other? Why do we make the lives of other Black women a living hell, instead of making it easier for them to get through the door? We know what it takes to get through that door, because we had to endure some things. But now that you're in that position, making it easier for the next woman that's coming along, giving her a helping hand. And I don't see that happening. But the reason that it's not happening, it's not out of spite. It's not that they don't think you deserve it. Again, it goes back to systemic racism, the impact of systemic racism, and how it becomes a form of internalized oppression, that they have taken all that they've endured through systemic racism, processed it, internalized it, and now they feel that it is their duty to impart that on everyone else, that they have replaced the role of the white man, and now it is their job to continue the system of systemic racism. But it's actually internalized oppression within their own group.
Okay.
So if you...
All right, so now that we have called a spade, let's talk about how we gonna move on. So in reviewing some of the references for this presentation, reading the internalized oppression text, they talk about ways to move forward in solidarity and support. And so we want to avoid attrition, pull people into the field and make sure they stay. So it's not just about getting people in, it's making sure that they are supported while they're there. We want to combat the negative psychological effects, um, make sure that people's mental health stay intact, that we are, that people are just working well, not just having work-life balance, but working well and being able to manage the things that they do. And then we want to stand in solidarity. So we got some interactive things we want to try to do here so we can start to practice solidarity and support.
So in discussing attrition, avoiding attrition, you all know, if you know me at all, you know that my goal is to expand the field of communication sciences and disorders, one Black speech pathologist or audiologist at a time. Many of our colleagues obtain their degrees, they practice in the field, and then they leave. They leave the field for other professions. So we want to do something different today. We want to make sure you stay in the field because so many of us, including myself, have, we burn out, we hit that wall, and we ready to go, okay? But I pay too much money for my degrees, so I'm going to use them, okay?
So one of the some of the negative psychological effects that come with this internalized oppression or oppression in general, we often feel like we have imposter syndrome, like we're not supposed to be there. Somebody else is more equipped. I'm here, and we got that fake it till you make it. You done already made it. Do you wherever you are at that time, that's where you're supposed to be. And so just learn what you need to learn in that stage in life where you are. So you don't have to embrace this imposter syndrome. And some of that is a healthy kind of feeling, right? Like, oh, you're questioning yourself. And so it's healthy to do that, but it's not that you are an imposter. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. You have low self-esteem is one of the negative psychological effects. And so thinking about, not letting these things impact your self-esteem, think highly of yourself. And that's not to say that you don't make mistakes because we all do, but we learn from those things. And to think that I'm making more mistakes than somebody else, that is so not true. They don't know that much more than you. And so don't let them convince you that they do. We have self-doubt, the negative self-perceptions again, and I can say that I have felt all of this, but then had to realize I'm not the problem. And it's not, I'm not so much worse than all these other people that I'm around. We avoid leadership roles thinking that we're not good enough to be in them, but guess what? Have you seen our leaders today? So you can definitely get in there and do and be in some of these roles, because believe me, you can't do any worse than what these folks doing. Reluctance to assert oneself, like you don't have to sit down and be quiet just because you think that you're not supposed to be talking, or they'll perceive you negatively. And then we conform to the culture, minimizing ourselves, and trying to not be seen or not be heard, because we're trying to conform to to whose standards, Andy?
The Whitey standards.
Yeah. So we don't have to. If we had a larger group, I would pull up this Padlet, but I think we could just unmute and say. To help combat these negative psychological effects, what I would like for us to do is like share what do you say to yourself when you start to experience some of these things to get you through? What is that quote or that verse or that one thing that you say to yourself to get you through some tough times when you need some encouragement? So, and if you share this, maybe it'll help somebody else. Like y'all kind of take these away, write these down. So share what it is, unmute if you don't mind, and share what it is that you tell yourself in those difficult times to help you get through.
I'm gonna start with this because we talk about this a lot. And this avoidance of leadership roles, this is my thing, you all. But I thought about it, Dr. Loudermill. It's not because I didn't think I could do it. I don't want to do it. Okay. I my thing is I got shit to do. I don't have time to fool with these people. And so, but if I'm going to be that person, who's going to assist my students and assist the faculty, somebody has to do it. And at this juncture, it had to be me because we didn't have anybody else that could take the graduate program director spot. So I went ahead and took it. But I will be honest with you, it wasn't something that I wanted to do. Okay. I felt like I could do it, but I knew that it would be a time suck. And I didn't want my time being sucked, right? I'm a little bit selfish with my time. And if you know me, you know time is not my friend. But I have to deal with students every day that have all of these things: imposter syndrome, low self-esteem, self-doubt. The best part is at a HBCU, they feel comfortable. They feel like they don't feel this sense of otherness and isolation. But I have worked at two PWIs, and my students of color, all of them felt this way. I spoke with a young lady at another university, and she was like, I'm just trying to do the best I can. And the other ones, they do so much better than me. I'm like, girl, do you know what you got? I'm like, you can connect with anybody. Okay. You establish rapport just like that. People love you instantly. Let me tell you something else. That Dr. Chenell Loudermill, this is a brilliant thing right here. Okay. And for her to tell me things like, oh, I didn't feel like I did enough, or I'm like, girl, you did it all. What are you talking about? So, look, you got a whole PhD. So, we have to encourage each other. We have to encourage ourselves, and we have to be there for each other. That's something that I had to say.
Sure do appreciate that, sis. And I'll share what I tell myself. And this is something new that I, realized that I've had to come to grips with because being in a place where everybody's like looking at their journey, right? Um, and so I had to start saying, I will not apologize for my journey, for how I
Mm,
got to where I got to.
yes, ma'am.
Um, and it was different from yours. No, I may not have done that, but what I did, here are things that I did do. So people telling me, oh, but you haven't done this and you haven't done that. And I just, yeah, but you didn't do what I did. You didn't go through what I went through. So I'm not going to apologize for my journey and for where I am just because I didn't take the same path that you took. So that was something I had to start telling myself, like, don't let them make you feel bad for the route you took to get here. Because I guarantee you, they probably could not have done
No, they
what
could not have.
they couldn't have gone through what you went through to get
Mhm.
here.
As the students say, clock it.
All right, so who else can share with us?
So with me, just working in, a university, um, I always go biblical, with through all things, I can do um anything through Christ, you know, and that truly gets me over. And when I do deal with any type of you know, low esteem due to anyone from the college, you know, that gets me through.
Good, I like that one. That's all. That's safe. That's a good go through one. A
Yep,
good go to one.
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. I'm a child of God. You can't hurt me.
I know that's right. Let it roll right off of you.
Yeah, yeah.
I know that's right, sis. Daria or Dawn?
I'd
Daria?
have to I'd have to say going to a predominantly white institution and being one of one in my cohort,
Mm,
I experienced everything on this list. And then when I became a therapist, I guess I worked in a silo because it was I really my feedback really came from my teachers, the other OTs, the parents. So I thought I was phenomenal. I went into leadership and everything came back that was at that PWI where there was isolation. When I jumped into leadership, I thought it was going to be collegiality and collaboration, and it was mostly cattiness and competition.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was like, oh wow, did I do the right thing? Should I have gone into leadership? I was, perfect in that little therapy room by myself and nobody was messing with me. Maybe, and then there was probably me and another person of color, and I thought that, wow, we were going to hit it off really great. And that was not the case. Um, there was a lot of that competition going on. And when I think on this list in leadership, the hardest one was being reluctant to assert myself because now it goes back to angry Black woman, assertion or being aggressive. So I sat on my hands a few times when I wish I hadn't. And it was almost like the game I thought I had to play for so many years. But what really got me through was always reminding myself with positive self-talk, you know what you went into this for, Dari. You wanted to make the difference in the lives of many students as a therapist and many clinicians as a supervisor and a leader. So forget what's going on in the office. You make a difference in those 100 clinicians that you supervise. So I took that energy that I was feeling more or less from the office, and I won't say in retiring that atmosphere changed because people left and moved on, and there was collegiality towards the end. But I'm at the very beginning when I was in supervision, I felt all of those things, and what really made was the positive self-talk and saying, where do you put this energy? You put this energy where it needs to be, into those clinicians, not into what's going on with people who either don't want to include you, kind of isolate you, don't want to put you in the collaboration part. No, you plan alone and you do what you have to do for movement and growth in your clinician. So yeah, I'd say positive
Yes.
self-talk.
I like that. I do. I like
Mhm.
that. That's smart to redirect it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm just going to make mine quick because I know time is of the essence, and I want to make sure that you get to go back to your presentation because I'm listening. But I know that, or some of you know that recently I resigned from my position as a clinical director at a university here in New York. And so I definitely have several issues that came about. And yet, um, if I were talking about a positive statement that I would say to myself at various times is if anybody did it, I could do it too. Like if anybody ever did it, I could do it too. Like then it might be hard, it might be challenging, but I could get there eventually. So as far as a phrase, that would be definitely something that keeps coming up in my head.
I love
Yeah,
that.
Don, I like that. Yeah, I'd say we can do hard things. It's
How we can
hard.
do hard
We can
things.
do hard things. We can. Good. You can go to the next slide. And thank you all for sharing that. So the last thing here, this standing in solidarity. So we have to learn to break the cultural cycle of internal oppression. Um, there are ongoing efforts, I think, probably disjointed efforts, but nevertheless efforts to recruit and retain faculty of color, but really need to do more in that area. um Try to, oh, we got an open position, bring people in, but tell them the truth now. Encourage, offer that encouragement to stay in the fold, because when we leave and we're not there, that's exactly what they want, right? They don't want us there. But I will also say, knowing that you can go where you are supported, and there are some places where you can be supported, and you just find and build that community. Um, we have to learn to collaborate as opposed to competing with each other, and support each other in those challenging environments. And so this note here is that, there are just no policies to support from like the psychological harm that these things cause. And we often also feel like, oh, we can't report it because it wasn't physical. Or it's downplayed because it's one microaggression, but it's one after another. And so I know you often feel silly saying, oh, he said this to me or she said this to me. But like those things add up. And so we have to support each other in these environments and believe each other when we say these things are happening. And put sisters out there like, girl, you got this, uplift each other. And so our next little activity that we want to do, like I'll say when we did this at Basel, we had people sitting next to each other and got to know the person next to them, and then uplifted them and did a shout out to them on social media. So I would encourage you to, pick somebody that you know is doing great things and say, you know what, let me promote this sister on social media. Let me put her out there. Let me congratulate this sister on this, accomplishment. Or let me just say, you know what, girl, you doing it. I see you out there. And just uplift them. Take a minute to say something nice about somebody. And not saying that you don't say nice things or do nice things for people, but like think about, is there a sister in the profession that I can uplift today? Just let me do that. Even my day is not going that good, but you know what? Let me uplift another sister today, and do that. So if there is a sister that you want to give a shout out to on social media, encourage somebody to patronize their practice, or talk about how well somebody's doing, or share something good that they're doing, or invite them to come and speak, or encourage somebody else to come and to invite somebody to come and share their knowledge or their experience in a setting that would kind of help elevate them. So if it's somebody that you know or you think you can, shout out, take an opportunity to do that on social media. And you can go to the next slide, Andy. You don't have to do it right now. I just want to make that suggestion. So now you can talk to us a little bit. I know we're at the end of this thing.